Hello everyone! Today I'm using some Heffy Doodle supplies. We have the Heffy Doodle Sticky Friends, we have some Heffy Cuts word dies, the new stitched alphabetter dies, and some stitched rectangles. I also have this paper pad from Simple Stories called Crafty Girl, and it has awesome patterned paper that is kind of geared towards crafty individuals. So I have this all and I'm gonna make a card. I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I have like a brief idea, not no idea, brief. So we'll just see what happens. So I have chosen 4 pieces of patterned paper from that 6x8 paper pack, and I'm going to cut backgrounds from it. I'm going to use the Heffy Doodle stitched rectangle dies. This is the 3rd from largest. I love leaving a border around my backgrounds, so this die just is the right size for me. So I'm just looking at the pattern paper and trying to decide where I want to have the die, if I want it to be a portrait or a landscape orientation, and then I'm gonna run it through the die cutting machine. This particular piece of pattern paper with the wood grain and the white outline images is funny because I purposefully put the die in this place and then I ended up making the card upside down. So you can check that out in the photos at the end. It's totally okay. I feel like mistakes like that are what make handmade cards endearing, so it is what it is. I know it's hard for many of you to understand this, but I felt like I had a light bulb out. Like my sun was a little less sun-like, so I don't know. So I ended up cutting 4 backgrounds. So we're going to make 4 cards today. They're super simple. So this one, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted it to be portrait or landscape because it looked good both ways. And instead of making more cards, I just decided to go with the portrait. I grabbed a big old stack of Vellum. This is my Vellum collection. It may or may not be all of my Vellum collection. This is some colored Vellum that I have. This is like a tint of pink or lavender. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to change the colors because I really did enjoy the colors of this pattern paper. So I decided to scratch that one and not use that. So then I grabbed a linen vellum. This is Papertrey ink linen vellum, and it's a little less see-through than I would like. I'd like to see the pattern a little easier, so I didn't want to use that one either. Then I had this confetti vellum that I have literally had for years in my stash and never used it. And I loved the way that this looked, especially on this rainbow pattern here. That is fun. But real talk, I cannot bring myself to cut that piece of paper. So unless I make a really big card, I'm not cutting that piece of paper. I may just make a gigantic card. I decided to go with plain heavyweight vellum. This is by Papertrey ink. I'm going to take the Crafty and the Friend Heffy Cuts word die and cut them out of the same pattern paper. I also made sure to save all my tittles. That's right, you heard me. I saved them all. I saved all the tittles. And when I say all of them, I mean a lot because I used Nina 110 cardstock to cut this Crafty and this Friend at least 3 times each for each card and layered each word die because it's relaxing. Do you guys try to conserve paper and try to cut as many words out of that one piece of paper as possible? It's like a fun game. So I used Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive, liquid adhesive on each of the layers to layer them all together. I also used a micro brush to help me spread out a very thin layer of the adhesive. That way I didn't have so much squishing out on the sides. And then I just kind of manipulate it with my fingers to make it all kind of line up. It is not perfect, y'all. I don't try to make it perfect. I do, however, hate all those little paper hairs that come flying off of your word die, so I do take this electric nail file and kind of clean up as many of those little suckers as possible. You could also use your Dremel tool on a very low setting. I'm also using that same liquid adhesive to adhere my Crafty and Friend word dies to their backgrounds. Here is my craft room droid. It's just an iPad on a wheelie stand. That's how I've been communicating with everybody. I just set myself up and use some adhesive and adhere a bunch of layers together to make this card set. This faux watercolor background is probably my favorite card of the set. I just love this navy and all of the wonderful colors behind it. I just eyeballed the Crafty friend, guys. So if it's not centered properly, I don't care. I adhered this one directly to the vellum, and then we're going to turn it over and put the liquid adhesive just behind the letters in order to hide the adhesive and the vellum. Because if you put adhesive on the vellum and then stick it to something, it's going to look like a wet spot on your card. So try to be careful and hide it. And that's what I did. I just leave it to dry with an acrylic block on top. So if you guys are ever wondering what I'm looking at, I'm no longer monitoring my own video that I'm creating, I'm watching yours. I've got some white craft foam and some double-sided adhesive, and I'm adhering all of my card panels to Simon Says Stamp Fog card bases per my usual. I am stamping the glue bottle from the Sticky Friends set. This was a Creativation exclusive set from a couple years ago, but it has a glue bottle in it, and it's probably the only glue bottle in my entire stamp stash. So I'm using it and Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Nina 110-pound cardstock, and I'm just going around stamping as many glue bottles as possible. Using the precision press for this is awesome because I don't have to move my paper. I just stamp and turn, stamp and turn. So because I only end up coloring one of these glue bottles, I left the coloring in real time. So happy Father's Day to everyone. If you hate this, skip it. For real, you're not missing anything. I just am taking 3 colors, 3 oranges, and I'm blending them together. I'm going to use YR14, YR15, YR16 for the orange label and the orange cap in a Elmer's glue-like fashion. And then white is going to be C1, C0, and then the 0 blender marker is what I use to blend out my white. And that is it for this coloring session. It's really not at all fantastic, but it looks cute. I tend to lay down my darkest color and then work my way to the lightest, and then again I do that. And then I also like to use that Gold Faber colored pencil right there. That is a number 273 Gold Faber colored pencil. It is just a dark or a medium kind of gray colored pencil, but I love using it over my Copic markers or alcohol markers in general to add shading. It's just the perfect color for me. It's really pleasing to me and I like using it. I also like to use the black colored pencil if the color is really super dark. And you certainly don't have to use this type of gray colored pencil. Any gray or black colored pencil I'm sure would do just fine. It just gives it that special depth, I think, that people are looking for, and that contrast when it comes to the alcohol markers. You guys, I am fussy cutting. If you are new here, welcome, but I hate this, okay? I'm not good at it. I don't like it. It always looks like crap. But I did it, okay? I fussy cutted. Here is a top tip. If you have a tittle that you are trying to layer, just build it on wherever it needs to live permanently. Do not try to build the top of the eye and then adhere it to the eye or where it's supposed to go. That is a big pain in the butt. Don't do that. Just build it where it needs to be. Leave a little drop of glue and then just simply place it where it needs to be, and your life will be so much less frustrating. This is my purpose in life, to just transfer these tips. I get frustrated and I tell you, don't do that. That's frustrating. I'm using VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink to stamp on the inside of my cards. Can you believe it? Yeah, I'm using the sentiment Crafty Friends stick together because of all the glue on the inside of all of these cards. Again, having any type of stamp positioner is fantastic for this because I'm basically stamping it in the same spot. For all of these portrait style cards, I did have to move it for the landscape version to get it in the center, but it's so easy to just have your plate that the stamp is mounted to, ink it up, stamp it down on each card. My children are now home, so I have to be done because you won't get anything except blurry footage. Thanks to the ceiling. I hope that you guys enjoyed some simple cards today and maybe even learned a few things, or maybe just laughed at me. That's good too. Find me, find Heffy Doodle on social media. I love interacting with you in the comments and everything. That's the best part. And until next time.